Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics for the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. Today we will look again at the form in our application and start to use the resource command. This was our application at the end of the last video. We have recently added a toolbar to the top of the application with some icons on the toolbar. However, these are icons that were generated by PowerBasic itself, and we're going to make a few changes to the application to allow us more control over resources. But first, we're going to fix a small bug. If we go into the application and we attempt to enter in a form, as you will see, the form validation highlights that the title is missing. However, the background of the label has changed back to the solid colour and is not showing as transparent. So that's a small fix to make on our application when we display these on the screen. So let's go back to the code and fix that first. In our application, we're using a couple of macros, one of which highlights errors on the screen. If we open it up, we'll see there is a -1 in here. As you will remember from the last video, the control set color command has an option at the end. This is for the background color. You can put a color in here. If you put -1, it leaves the color as the default. If we put in a -2, it will be transparent. So we need to change this to -2. And if we run the application once more, we'll see our label goes red, but the background color stays as transparent. So that piece of code is used for each of these labels. So we have fixed one outstanding bug in the application. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to change the icons we're going to be using in this toolbar. So let's go back to the folder and we'll put in some more icons. So we will take out the 3 icons that PowerBasic generated for us. And we're going to copy into this folder 4 other icons. One for save, one for load, one for new, and we're going to add a help icon as well. At the beginning of our application is a resource command, and this is specifying a PBR file. This PBR file is where our icons were currently coming from. We're going to comment this line out so that we can actually make full control of the icons with our own resource commands and not embed them in the PBR file. So for the moment, we will comment out this line of code. So how can we get our icons into the application? Well, we can do this by also using the resource command. However, we're going to tell it that we're going to use icon. So we're going to be importing an icon into the application at compilation time. We have the option of naming our icon, giving it a resource identifier, and the name of the icon we're going to import. I'm going to add this grid icon as the first icon on our resource list. Whatever the first icon on the resource list is going to be, will be the icon that's shown in Windows for your application. So you need to put this icon as the very first resource command. So in order to bring in the other icons, we need more resource icon commands. And there are our other commands. So we're giving effectively what are names for these resource IDs for the app icon, the load, the save, the new, and the help icon. So how can we make use of these? First of all, we'll put an icon on the dialog itself. If we go to the function which defines the dialog and scroll down. Before we display the dialog to the user, we can set the icon that will be displayed. And we can do that using the dialog setIcon command. It takes 2 parameters, the handle of the dialog and the resource ID, in this case in quotes, app icon. If we run the application once more, we will see we now have an icon at the top left-hand corner of the dialog. And down in the taskbar, we also have an icon showing for the application. So now that we have the icon on the application, we need to now populate the icons on our toolbar. So once more, back to the code. We have a function in our application which PowerBasic has generated for you, called sample toolbar. We're going to replace this function with one of our own, and within it we will set all our icons up. So first of all, we will rename the function. We'll call it create main toolbar. There could be several dialogues within your application, and each of them could have its own toolbar. So as we've done here, we're still going to have an image list, and we need to add icons to that image list. So we're going to replace these 3 lines of code with 4 lines of code in order to handle each of the icons: the new, the load, the save, and our new help icon. And since we're adding 4 icons to this list, we'll change this number 3 to a number 4. And I'm making use of the prefix command to save a little bit of typing here. But it's all the same lines of code. It's image list add icon and the handle of the image list. And we're specifying the names of each of the icons we're going to be adding. Next, we need to do the same with the next part of the code. We're going to replace the code that's in here with our own code. First of all, we'll attach the image list to the toolbar, and then we'll do an add button for each of our new icons. And there, using the prefix command, are our 4 new icons. So we're using the same constants we were using before, and we're using the same text. The only additional work we've put in is for the new help icon. And we're also using another command called Toolbar Add Separator. This allows you to put a vertical separator bar between 2 icons. So we're doing this before the 4th icon. And you can specify how many pixels width you actually have. We're going for the full 32 here. So as we've created a new constant here, we'll need to define this at the beginning of the code. So there is a new constant added to the end of the list of constants, the toolbar event for the help button. So since we have replaced the sample toolbar function, we now have to go back to the code to take that away from the area of the function where the dialog is defined and move it outside the bit that the forms designer controls. So we will see in here the control add toolbar is currently within the PB forms section. We want to move it away from here, otherwise PB forms would put that code back in every time we recompile the form. And outside that section is the call to the sample toolbar function. We will replace that call to our own newly created function. And there we have moved the control add toolbar command outside the PB forms section. And we now have a create main toolbar underneath it, which calls to our new function. And if we run the application now, we now have an application with our own icons on the toolbar. We have the new, the open, the save, and a new help button, separated by the separator bar. The separator bar is purely cosmetic. It has no functional use, it has no event to click on. So having achieved that, what more can we do on the form to add more resource icons? We have 2 buttons on the form, a submit button and an exit button. Ideally, I would like to put icons on both of those buttons. So let's go back to the code to see how we can achieve this. If we go up to the beginning of the application, we're going to add a new library to make our life much easier. The library we're adding is one called Button Plus, and we will copy in the 2 files that comprise the Button Plus library. This is a particular library I've been using for many years and did not write myself, but it is such a useful piece of code that it gives you the ability to put icons on buttons remarkably easily. So now that we've added the library, what do we have to do to make use of it? Well, first of all, we have to bring in a couple of more icons, one for each of the buttons we're going to be using. And these are the two icons we're going to be using, one called round tick and one called round cross. So let's now go to the function that defines the dialog so we can place these icons on the objects. And here are the lines of code we have added to put the icon on our cancel button, our abort button. This is a button that when clicked will exit the application. So we're using the prefix command to make it easier for the 4 lines of code we want to put in. All of them are preceded with button plus, followed by the dialog handle and the handle of the button we wish to put the icon on. We're setting first the text colour on the button. In this case, the text will be red in colour. We're next defining the handle of the exit icon. Next, we are defining the icon width, in this case 32 pixels, and the position of our icon is on the left-hand side. So we need to define this constant. So let's go back to the beginning of the code where all our constants reside. And here I am defining the constants. Our exit icon is going to be 4000. And we're going to have one for the submit icon as well. And we're bringing in, again using the resource icon command, our round crossed icon and the round tick icon. So if we run the application now, we will see on the exit button we now have an icon. However, the text is squashed up beside the icon itself. So we'll need to right justify the text to give it a little bit more room. And we can do exactly the same for the submit button. So if we go to the function that defines the form, and if we look for our buttons, and there are our 2 buttons, the submit button and the exit button. At the moment, they have no optional parameters. So we're going to add some in. And there are our optional parameters. And this is the constant that's going to right justify the text, BS right. If we run the application once more, we will see the icon and the exit text are quite happily in place. We now need to do the same for the icon for the submit button. So we'll need to do exactly the same approach using the button plus library. And there is the text. This time we're going for blue for the colour of the text on the button. And we're setting the icon as the submit icon, again 32 bits in size. And we're positioning the icon on the left of the button. If we run the application once more, we'll see there is our submit and our exit buttons. It does of course not change the functionality of the application, but it does give it slightly more visual appeal. So now that we have that in place, can we put some code behind each of these buttons? We already have a link to a URL website on our rich edit control. You may want to put a similar or even a different URL on the help button. So when the user clicks on help, it takes them directly to the website. So let's put that code in place. So I'm going to set up a constant for the string, which is our URL. And there is our URL. So we're going to use this in 2 places in the application. So we're going to use it in the existing place, which is the rich edit control. So we'll do that piece of code first. So in here, in this control set text command is where we set up the URL. So we're going to replace that with the constant we have just defined. And there is our constant. So we now have to put an event in so that when the user clicks on the help button on the toolbar, it will take them to our website. So let's go into the event handler, the callback function. So in this section of the callback function, we have the events for each of our toolbar buttons. One for the new, the open, and the save. So we now need to add a new event for the help button. And there is our new event. When this button is pressed, we're going to use the shell execute API call to link to our URL. So if we try running the application now, And once that comes up, we will click on the Help button on the toolbar. And this launches our website. So this gives you a mechanism on the toolbar of linking to any specified website directly from the toolbar itself. So there is one more bug I've discovered that we'll need to fix. Say for example you had started to key in a new form and then hit Submit button. It shows quite correctly an error because the name has been missed out. If we double click on one of the current staff, the name does not clear. So we need to put some code in so that when you do something like that, it will automatically clear any outstanding error because you're overwriting it with a double click on the grid. So let's go back to the code and fix that bug. So we may need a nice straightforward way of clearing any label that's currently set. To save us having to work out which label needs to be changed, we'll just change all of them. So we'll create a new function called Clear All Label Highlights. And we'll add that to the bottom of our code. And here is our new function. I'm going to create a global array of all the label handles. This way, when we create any new labels on the form, we can just add it to the array. And this function will work quite happily without having to be recoded. It takes a single parameter, which is the handle of the dialog itself. As you may of course have multiple dialogues in your own applications. And then it loops round every entry in the labels array and sets the colour to blue with a transparent background. And then having reset the colours of all those labels, we can set the text on the feedback output to blank and then redraw the entire dialog. So we'll need to populate this array at some point in the code. So we can probably easily do that in the forms dialog function. So just after we created the main toolbar, we will redimension a global array as a long. We have 6 controls we need to add to this list. And here is our code. We are redimensioning the global array from 1 to 6 elements, all as long numbers. And we're using the array assign command to assign each of the values for the title, the name, the age, the department, the working pattern, and the start date. This way, should we create any more labels, we can quite easily add them to the end of the list. So we'll now go back to the beginning of the application and we will define this global array. So here is where we create the existing global array for our thread handles. We'll add our new global array just underneath that. And there is the new global array for our labels auto clearing function. So when are we going to call this new function? Well, first of all, we'll put something under the new button on the toolbar, which is a good test of the button. So once more, back to the callback function, the event handler. And we will scroll down and find the event for the new button. And there is our toolbar new button. So within this, we will comment out the message box and we'll call the new function. So if we run the application once more, and if we put in something that will generate an error, and then click on the new button, and our name error disappears. So if we try this with something else, and hit new, then the age one gets cleared as well. So the other place we'll need to put it is on the double click of the list view itself. So that way it will clear any outstanding error. So let's go and put that line of code in the event. So here is the double click event for the list view. So before we populate the form, we'll put a call in to our new function. And there's the call to our clear all label highlights function. If we run the application once more, we will generate an error of some description and then double click on our list view. And there the error has disappeared. So in summary, what we've done today is we have replaced the inbuilt icons provided by the PowerBasic Forms Designer with our own icons using the resource command and commenting out the call to the PBR. This allows us total control of any icons in the application. And to make use of that, we have used the Button Plus library to add icons to 2 of our buttons. And that also allows us to change the colour of the text on the buttons for clarity for the user. Additionally, one of the buttons on our toolbar now triggers the URL for our website. So we have added a bit more functionality to the application and made it a little more visually appealing. Hopefully you'll find this code and these techniques useful in your applications, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to click on the link in the description below to discover more videos.